All right, ready for with Coach Brown, and we'll throw it up with questions.
So Coach, what about Kentucky? Why did this appeal to you this year?
First off, it's all about the people. You know, when Coach Bateman called me, it really didn't matter what job it was because of who he is as a human being. You know, I worked with him in 2023 at Florida, and he wasn't in the coordinator role, but he was a linebacker coach. So I was in his office a lot, learning from him football-wise, but also being a coach as well.
What about his defense is really just the way he calls games?
He's aggressive. He's aggressive. He's going to put us in situations where we're playing man-to-man, but I know what he's going to do up front. Like, this guys are going to get after the quarterback, and for us on the back end, obviously that makes it a little bit easier for us.
Can you talk a little bit about his leadership and communication style that really attracts you to him?
He better have tough skin, because he'll get after the players, but he'll also get after the coaches. But that's where, you know, I've seen him operate as a coach as a whole, where to me, I'm in good graces with him. And, you know, I know what he does, what he likes schematically, technique-wise, and we kind of gel that way. So.
How much did you work with Jordan and Aaron in Florida, and how familiar were you with them in the recruiting?
Those are my dogs. Those are my dogs, man. Both of those two young men, first and foremost, are good humans. So I knew they were a good fit for what Coach Stein's vision was, because for us, yes, talent matters, but also you got to have the right kids. Athletically, talent-wise, their tape screams what it screams. But those are great kids with great parents and all of that too. So
at corner, they had so many injuries last year that maybe guys got thrown into the fire before they were ready a little bit. Have you seen some benefit from that experience for those guys?
Yeah, no, there's no question. You know, experience is your best teacher. Ultimately, it always will be. And, you know, obviously I teach a lot off of experience. So getting out there in front of, you know, 70,000, 100,000 fans, it ain't real till it's real. And, you know, the guys like Grant Great being able to feel that. Even to Ryan doesn't have a ton of snaps. But he's gotten to feel that, right? Nas has gotten to feel that. All of those guys that have gotten to feel that, it won't be their first time out there, even when we're going against Youngstown State week 1, right? This place is going to be rocking. It's going to be going crazy. And the human element is something that a lot of times is hard to factor in when we're practicing. And that is the human element. So those guys getting snaps, that's a big deal.
What did you like about the sign? More of the guy that you all kind of zeroed in on it.
Yep. Well, first off, I'm an FCS baby myself. You know, I played at Eastern Washington. I won national championships. I know what it's like. I played with Cooper Kupp. I know there's a ton of talent out there, and I know he's hungry. I've gotten to see a ton of kids take these things for granted. I knew he wasn't going to take those things for granted. You know, the resources in terms of nutrition, academics, the weight room, all of that stuff. That stuff matters, and he's got the ability. The first game that I turned on was a P5 game against Wake Forest. You know, my best friend was the receiver coach at Wake Forest, so I asked him, I said, how fast is this receiver? Because I got to see them run stride for stride with each other. He said, oh, he can roll. I said, say less. That's what I need. So.
What's the biggest challenge in making that jump from the FCS level?
I think it's the human element. I truly do, because they don't play in the same environments, you know. And again, you can't take off that factor when you're going against Bama, when you're going against Texas A&M. Regardless of who you're playing against, the fans are going nuts. So you got to lock into your technique, your job, your responsibility, and get that stuff taken care of. Talent-wise, he's gonna see talent at that level. Like it's going to happen. Like you can get popped by anybody in this league and another league if you're not locked in. So I think it's the human element at the end of the day.
What is your teaching style when you're talking to these guys, trying to build them up and prepare them?
I'm a player's coach. You know, that's the reason why I got into it. I'm going to lead. I'm going to mentor. I'm going to teach. In my mind, at a super high level. But it all starts with the relationship. The first thing that I did when I got here is I met with every single dude, 20 minutes with my iPad, and I want to know who they were as human beings. You know, some of the adversity that they went to, mom, dad, high school, middle school, growing up, all of that stuff, right? Because ultimately, they're not going to trust me if we don't have that bond. Whether I show them good tape of guys that I've had in the past or whatever it may be. So it starts with the relationships, but when you guys see me out there on the grass, I'm 10 toes down. I got my cleats on, I tried a peanut punch one time, broke my finger, but I'm in the mix. I'm in the mix. When they make a play, I feel like I made a play. When they obviously get beat, I feel like I got beat. So I take pride and I take it super serious.
So you broke the finger in practice?
Absolutely, week 1, baby.
They give you some flack for that?
They didn't. You know, they told me I got to tighten up, but it's all good. Look, I'm in the mix, like I said.
What have you learned from your group in these first few practices?
I've learned that they're still green. They're still green to the game. And again, a lot of times that comes with experience. So I got to start from the ground up. And that's not a bad thing by any means. I've done it before in my career. The best part about it is they're willing. They're willing. So I've seen so much progression throughout the days. And that's the thing, when I turn on the tape, I literally turn on, you know, a practice from week 1 or endos from week 2. And then us making it right down the road. And that's a big deal. When they see that, man, it's huge. So for me, it's just pouring into these guys, finding different ways to teach them, right? We had, obviously I've taught them this way, but I'm going to evaluate myself after spring ball and see if that was the best way to do so, you know, based on each guy's learning style. So
when you watch the film of what they did last year, evaluating those guys, how different is what you're asking those corners to do in this defense versus what they're used to?
No, that's a great question. We're going to play a lot more press man. You know, I take a ton of pride in playing press and the opportunities that it gives you to take away some of the timing, especially with Coach Bateman's scheme, his aggressive style. You know, it's a really lonely feeling when somebody that runs a 4-3 is stepping on your toes full speed and you're going the other way, right? It's a really lonely, especially when you're doing it the whole game. So we're going to go get up at the line of scrimmage, get in guys' faces, make them go left and right, east and west, as opposed to going vertical and stepping on their toes.
There's been a recent trend with Kentucky DBs making the NFL, like Maxwell Harrison, Andrew Phillips, and all that. So how have you kind of used those guys, Pat, to help teach these guys? Because these guys obviously have some pro dreams as well. How are you using that to help them grow and realize what they can become?
You know, the biggest thing that I use with that is it is possible from the University of Kentucky. I'm not truly going to rely on those guys because I didn't coach them. I know Coach Collins did a great job. I love Coach Collins. We know each other and stuff like that, but it is possible. Maxwell went first round from the University of Kentucky, right? I'm going to have 2 guys get drafted from Cal this past season, right? Before that, I had Jason Marshall. I had a bunch of guys prior to that. So I really more so lean on the guys that I've coached because it's more so the things that I teach. But the biggest thing that I use with that is it is possible. And not only is it possible, it's happened year after year.
And I know there's no depth chart or anything like that, but Coach Stein said it's a lot of kind of one-on-one, best on best, not saying who's been the best up there, but who's really impressed you, like with their effort, just how they compete.
No, there's a number of guys. All of these guys are competing. I'm seeing strides from Rye, Daly, right? I'm seeing strides from Grant. I'm seeing strides from everybody. Nas, you know, there's ups and downs, there's highs and lows with everybody. And I'm kind of living off of today a little bit, but everybody has had their peaks and everybody's had their valleys. So ultimately, I'm excited for those guys to finish out competing through the spring, operating through the summer, and coming into the fall ready to roll.
DeMarcus Gardner's name a lot.
Oh, yeah.
A guy who really hasn't played at all.
Yep.
What has he done to kind of
That kid is so talented. He is so talented. And, you know, he's one of the first kids that I got to meet one-on-one, and he has a different background, different lifestyle than some of these other guys. So he's hungry. He's hungry, but he's one of the guys that is green again, right? He redshirted last year. He didn't get the opportunity to step into Kroger and truly get that playing time. So some of the stuff that he has to work on is truly having conviction in the scheme, because he has the ability. If I just tell him go play man, look, that's his work. But there's more in our scheme to that. So he has to learn the ins and outs of what we do as a whole.
You mentioned those 20-minute meetings with all your players. Is that something you've always done as well? And kind of what is the importance of that? And do you do stuff like that throughout the season as well?
Yep. No, that's why I got into it. It starts with the teaching and the mentoring as young men prior to the football side of it. So I have done that my whole career, and there is going to be checkups. You know, there'll definitely be one after spring, obviously, but throughout the summer, like, I'm not a big phone call guy. I FaceTime. Every time I phone call, it's a FaceTime. I want to see you eye to eye. I want to see what you're doing exactly. And I think that's big. Again, to me, it's all about relationships. So That's a good question.
No count. Questions for him?
How different is your role in this new scheme versus what you did last year? Or is it different?
I would say I'm a lot more in the box with Coach Bateman. I feel like personnel-wise, like the player that I am, I don't feel like I've changed much. But I would say the scheme that Coach Bateman runs is a little different than last year.
What made you want to come back?
I love Lexington. Once I found out that Coach Stein and Coach Bateman was coming, I feel like it was a no-brainer that I stayed. So the pair of those two.
What do you like about the two of them?
I love how aggressive Coach Bateman is, and Coach Stein is a very fast-paced, who was a very fast-paced coordinator, and just I trust that he has the right pieces, and he knows the right people, bringing the right people in. So I just trusted that, and that was why.
How exciting is it as an edge guy when you hear they're going to be aggressive and go after the quarterback?
It's super exciting because it takes a little bit of pressure off of me in terms of what the offense is going, how the offense is going to scout the defense. So I really can't ask for nothing more than just as much individual work on the tackle as possible. So.
What's your impressions of Coach Washington?
Love him. Honestly, I love the way he coaches. He doesn't overcoach, but he's very passionate about what he does. He's very detailed about how he goes about work, and he's very like adamant about just being the best you can be every day and going to work every day, not necessarily punching the clock, but being very intentional in paying the bills, basically. That's how he says Rennans do.
He's one of those young coaches on the staff who was just doing it not too long ago. How much does it help kind of?
It helps a lot because he still has like a player perspective on a lot of things, and he understands how we think. I feel like more than some other coaches may. So it's a cool thing to have, as a position coach for sure.
What do you think about the pace of the practice?
Man, it's fast. I love it though. I feel like it puts us in the best position to have great games and play at game speed. So that way, we don't have to adjust forward. We can always adjust back. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like it's the best way to practice, honestly, because we'll always be prepared to the best of our abilities because we don't have to speed up to anybody else's pace. We have the fastest pace, so that's good.
Did you get down the stretch last year when you played so much more after Sam got hurt? Just that experience, what did it do for you?
It did a lot. It did wonders for me because I didn't have any game experience really. So having early game experience, I feel like it instilled a lot of confidence in me and a lot of confidence in my abilities. Made me trust myself more. So I feel like having that opportunity really just took me to another level mentally. So.
Has Sam still been helping you guys? And we heard from
Absolutely.
Coach Bateman, the leadership, even with him working back, it's still been really evident.
Absolutely. He's always there. He's present. He's a vocal leader. He really leads by example. I wouldn't say, even though he's not really, in team periods in practice, like he's is there as much as anybody else, if not more. So he's a great leader for us.
Coach Stein said that even though he's known as an offensive-minded coach, Coach Bateman kind of jokes with him that he's a defense-friendly coach. So, how does having an offensive-minded coach who loves this fast-paced play, how does that help you on the defense kind of get
we work together. Coach Stein always come into the D-staff meetings, or not D-staff, the defensive meetings, and he always let us know, like, even though he's an offensive guy, like, the defense is just as important as anything. So, they have their relationship that obviously I don't know about, but I love how we practice together. We take care of each other, and I would say that's all I can ask for as a player. You know what I'm saying? Just being in a position to where we're going to make each other better every practice.
I would say definitely the scheme was. This offense is a lot more, we're targeting stuff a lot more than we were last year, a lot more different schemes, everything we do, which has created a whole different challenge, at least for me at center, having to ID different things and recognize defense is not only outside, like in the box, but outside the box. So that's probably been the biggest challenge we've had. and then the tempo of practice.
Going off of that, can you talk a little bit about what you want to focus on in your personal development at this point?
For me, it's trying to fine-tune my abilities at center. I feel like that's where I've been able to play some of my best ball at since I've gotten here, and just trying to take that next step.
Were you always planning to play center here, or was that kind of a process getting to that as your home?
So when I came in, Zach Yenser was still here. He wanted me to play. He wanted me to play all three interior, and then through the coaching changes and stuff, we ended up settling on center.
What do you think makes you suited for that?
I feel like for me, I've always been kind of a smarter football player. I can recognize things. I feel like that helps me get ahead and know what the defense is doing.